Engineering is the art of modeling materials we do not wholly understand in ways we cannot precisely analyze so as to build things we cannot fully comprehend. That's physicist Freeman Dyson. And it feels pretty relevant when you look at really cutting-edge tech, especially something as complex as a modern warship.
Mm-hmm. Like an aircraft carrier.
Exactly. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're pulling apart something pretty significant happening right now in global naval power. We're talking about the extensive sea trials of China's newest and definitely most advanced aircraft carrier.
That would be the Fujian, their third carrier, but a real step change compared to the first two.
Right. And for this deep dive, we're drawing on what's being reported through official channels like CCTV News, and also the analysis from Chinese military experts that's been covered in Global Times.
Yep, those are our main sources today.
So our mission here is to try and understand what these, well, seemingly constant sea trials are all about. What actually makes the Fujian so different? And, why is this something important to track if you're following global affairs?
Okay, let's dig in. The latest news certainly suggests these aren't just quick shakedown cruises.
No.
CCTV News reported just this past Saturday that things are really ramping up the intensity of the trials.
And didn't that come right after a notice from the maritime authorities?
It did. The Shanghai Maritime Safety Administration, back on May 19th, they announced traffic control measures for large vessels in the Yangtze River estuary planned for the following Wednesday.
Okay, so they didn't explicitly name the ship in that notice.
No, they didn't name the Fujian, but people who follow this closely, observers, they pretty much immediately connected the dots.
Figured it had to be the carrier heading out again.
Exactly. The thinking was this marked the Fujian setting out for, well, what many believe is now its 8th sea trial since this whole process kicked off about a year ago.
8 trials already. So with all that activity being watched, what's the official word been from Beijing?
Well, if you go back to March 27th, there was a regular press conference. Senior Colonel Wu Qian, he's a spokesperson for the Ministry of National Defense, he was asked directly about reports concerning the 7th sea trial. Specifically, whether it focused on those really critical catapult and landing tests.
And what did he say?
He basically said he didn't have specific information to release on those particular reports at that time.
Dodged it a bit.
Maybe, but he did confirm more broadly that the ongoing sea trials are, and this is a quote, a routine arrangement for the construction of the Fujian.
Okay, routine might be the official word, but this carrier's testing seems anything but right. Because of the core technology involved. This is the reason it's getting so much attention.
Absolutely. This is China's first aircraft carrier equipped with electromagnetic catapults. That's the big departure.
And that's the key difference driving these extensive trials.
That's what the experts are saying. People like Fu Qinshao and Zhang Junxie, talking to Global Times, they point directly to this new tech. It's precisely why we're seeing such thorough testing.
Right. It's not just tweaking an existing system. They're proving out something entirely new for them on a massive scale.
Precisely. You need sufficient, really rigorous tests to make sure you understand exactly how these new electromagnetic systems work under real-world conditions at sea.
It's a huge leap from the ski jump ramps on their first 2 carriers, the Liaoning and the Shandong.
Oh, completely. A ski jump just gives the plane a bit of an upward boost off the deck. A catapult system, especially an electromagnetic one, actively launches the aircraft. It's a whole different ballgame technologically.
So given that huge jump, why does testing the Fujian likely need, more time, more individual trials compared to what they did with Liaoning and Shandong?
Well, both Fu Qinshao and Zhang Junxie offered some insights there. Fu Qinshao mentioned that the testing has to cover launches with all the different aircraft types planned for the carrier.
So not just the fighters.
Right. You've got heavier fighter jets, you've got specialized early warning aircraft. They all have different weights, different aerodynamics. You need to test the catapult with each one.
And presumably things like how often you can launch them too.
Yes, exactly. Testing the intervals between launches is critical. That directly impacts the carrier's sortie generation rate, how quickly it can get aircraft into the fight.
And Zhang Junxie, he added another factor, didn't he?
He did. He pointed out that it's not just the new catapults. The Fujian itself is simply a larger ship than the earlier ones.
Bigger platform, more complexity.
And designed to carry a wider variety of aircraft types overall. So you combine the new launch tech with the larger size and broader air wing. It just means there are many more systems to calibrate and test together. You need to ensure the whole integrated system is stable and reliable.
Okay, so they're deep into testing these complex systems. Where do the experts think this leaves the Fujian in terms of actually being ready for service? Is commissioning getting close?
The consensus among those experts seems pretty optimistic, actually. Fu Kanshao, for instance, he believes that if the current testing phase continues to go smoothly, the Fujian will likely be commissioned relatively soon.
And Zhang Junche seems to be thinking along similar lines, based on the number of trials.
Right. He specifically noted that with 8 sea trials apparently completed since May of last year, it probably shouldn't be too much longer before it officially enters service with the PLA Navy.
And how does that number, 8 trials, stack up against the previous carriers?
It's right in the ballpark. The Liaoning, their first one, that reportedly took 10 sea trials before commissioning, and the Shandong, the second one, took 9. So 8 trials definitely puts the Fujian within that expected range.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Moving beyond the testing. What's the operational difference these electromagnetic catapults make? Once the Fujian is commissioned and out there, how does this tech change its actual combat power?
Yeah, this is where analysis like Cao Weidong's, reported by CCT News, is really interesting. He stresses that these electromagnetic catapults will significantly boost the Fujian's daily sortie rate.
Meaning how many flights it can launch and recover in a 24-hour period.
Exactly. A much higher sortie rate translates directly into a much greater ability for the carrier and its aircraft to, seize and maintain control of the air and sea in a conflict zone. More power, faster.
And are there specific types of aircraft that really benefit from this or that contribute more because of the catapults?
Well, Cao Weidong mentions that advanced aircraft, potentially including stealth fighters like the J-35, those can be tested and operated from the Fujian.
So newer generation planes adding to its punch.
Right, and that further boosts its potential capability once it's fully operational. He also makes a broader point. Once commissioned, the Fujian substantially strengthens the PLA Navy's ability to conduct both coastal defense and more distant long-range maritime operations. It extends their reach, basically.
It's interesting how much detail the CCTV reports seem to have gone into about the specific advantages of catapults over the older ski jumps.
Yeah, they highlighted several key things. First, fighter jets can take off carrying their full load of fuel and weapons.
Which obviously makes a huge difference to their range and combat effectiveness right off the deck. No need to launch light and refuel immediately.
Precisely. Second big advantage. Catapults are pretty much essential for operating fixed-wing early warning aircraft. Those larger planes with the radar domes.
The eyes in the sky for the carrier group.
Exactly. They massively improve the whole group's ability to detect threats much further out, build situational awareness, and coordinate all the other aircraft. Ski jumps just can't launch planes that heavy or that require that kind of takeoff speed.
Okay, so full loads for fighters, ability to launch essential support aircraft. What else?
Third, the electromagnetic catapult specifically. They offer very precise control over the launch power, much more so than older steam catapults.
And why is that precision useful?
It allows a carrier to launch a much wider range of aircraft types effectively. Everything from heavy fighters and those early warning planes down to potentially much smaller unmanned drones or maybe even larger transport aircraft someday.
So more flexibility in what you can put in the air.
Much more flexibility. It makes the carrier's potential operational modes far more adaptable depending on the mission.
What you need to remember, this isn't just about one ship in isolation, is it? The Fujian is part of a much bigger story about China's naval modernization.
Oh, absolutely. The CCTV reports really frame it that way. They talk about this new era where the PLA Navy has been commissioning a whole series of new modern vessels very rapidly.
It's a fleet-wide upgrade then.
It seems so. They mention things like new strategic nuclear-powered submarines, those big 10,000-ton destroyers, amphibious assault ships, the large replenishment ships you need to support operations far from home.
So the whole supporting cast for a blue water navy.
Right. And alongside the ships, they mention batches of new carrier-based fighters being delivered, plus new types of early warning aircraft and carrier-based helicopters joining the fleet.
It really sounds like they're systematically building out the full capability for carrier strike groups.
That's the picture painted by these reports, yes. They summarize it as a modern PLA Navy taking shape, shifting from coastal boats to large warships, from individual units to complex integrated systems. The description used is that their fourth-generation equipment, the most advanced stuff like Fujian, is starting to lead the way, while third-generation gear forms the backbone.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. What we seem to be seeing is China's most advanced carrier, the Fujian, going through really intensive testing. This is driven largely by its new electromagnetic catapult technology, a major leap for them. And the experts, looking at the number of trials, seem to think it's getting pretty close to being ready for actual service.
Seems likely, based on past timelines.
And once it is operational, this ship represents a really significant jump in China's naval power-boosting sortie rates, allowing more capable aircraft to operate, increasing flexibility, and extending their potential reach.
And it's vital, as you said, to see this ship not in isolation, but as a key piece of a much broader, very rapid modernization push across the entire PLA Navy. They're building a force that's clearly intended to be capable of operating far beyond their immediate coastline.
So the big question for you, our listener, is, what does all this mean? As China continues to commission these increasingly sophisticated warships like the Fujian, and as their Navy grows in capability and range, what are the longer-term implications? For maritime power balances, for global strategy, for security in key regions?
Definitely something to keep watching closely.
Yeah, food for thought as these developments continue to unfold. Just a reminder, our discussion today was based on insights from reports and expert analysis published in outlets like Global Times and CCTV News.
And if you found this deep dive useful for getting your head around these complex developments, please do take a second to like this and subscribe to our channel.
Absolutely. And if you have more questions maybe about the Fujian or China's Navy or any other topic you'd like us to tackle with this kind of deep dive approach, please leave us a comment below. We genuinely want to know what you're interested in.